Have you ever created a Google Sheets spreadsheet only to realize that once you've typed everything in, that some of that information really needs to be rearranged so that you can see that data to its best effect? Perhaps you want to create a report and you really want to show some information in the best way possible. And well, the way you've typed it in isn't quite what you needed. Well, you might try sorting, which just simply arranges, or filtering, which even hides some of that data that you don't want to show and only shows the data that you do want to show. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and today let's look at Google Sheets and sorting and filtering. As we look at our example spreadsheet here, and actually we have two, we have our main big spreadsheet here, but then over at the right we have another really small spreadsheet that also contains data. And we want to see how when we sort in one list, that affects the other list. So first of all, we're just going to look at what the information that we have here, and this is the information that was created when a math club was created. And as the kids came in the door, they gave the sponsors their name, the city that they are from, and their grade level. And there are only about 11 kids who really are interested and even qualify for this math club, but they will eventually compete with other metropolitan areas in the state or maybe even outside of the state. And so this club helps them practice their math skills so that they can compete and maybe even win. Well, as we look at this spreadsheet, of course it has their last name and first name, but as you look at the last name, you can see that it's not in any kind of alphabetical order. And then as we look at the third column, we can see that they are coming from different areas of that metropolitan area. There are about 5 small cities involved here, and it would maybe be nice to know what city is actually volunteering these kids. And then it would also be nice to know what grade level the kids are on. So of course you have some seniors, but wouldn't it be interesting to find out how the freshmen are doing? And maybe the freshmen are really working hard and they're the ones who will struggle a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe we have some kids who are really good in math, and even though they're younger, they may really succeed within this group. And so then to the right of that, we have the beginnings of this club and how they are going to practice. So what they do is they have a math problem that they're all given at the beginning of the meeting, and then they try to solve that problem, or maybe even several problems, because then those answers are scored, and it just gives the sponsors an idea of how much the kids know to begin with, and then hopefully that will, during the meeting, improve their knowledge and understanding of what they would need to do to solve that problem. And so again, maybe we have freshmen who actually are doing better than seniors, but it's really kind of hard to look at all of those numbers and even begin to tell who is doing really well or who is coming in with some basic fundamental knowledge that maybe some of the other kids have just missed out. So to do a sort, we really want to be careful with Google Sheets because it is mostly recommended that we freeze that first row of headings and then we can sort what is left. Otherwise, there's the possibility that those column headings will sort within the spreadsheet itself. So let's click on our spreadsheet here, and then we're going to go to the View, which is the third choice in the menu bar, come down to Freeze, which is our second choice, and we want to freeze one row, which is row 1. And now we can see this kind of thick line between row 1 and row 2, which shows that if I were to scroll down a little bit here, that you can see that that first row remains consistent even though the data is moving. And eventually I would run out of data, but that first row is still there and still working very nicely. So that is what happens when we freeze a row. Well, let's then actually practice a sort. But before we do that, I also want to point out that besides having these scores and the information about the different kids, over on the right we have this small list, and these are saver cards. So these are basically coupons that you can sell a coupon book for, say, $10, and these are going to help fund the different activities that this club is going to participate in. Now, because these are saver cards and they tend to be unique to the different areas of the metropolitan area, you'll notice that there's a card type for each one of the cities, and then we have, of course, the number of cards that so far we have sold for each one of those cities. So it's a little complex, but we want to watch this little table as we do some sorting of this main spreadsheet. So let's say that we want to find out the cities. We want to know how many kids are coming from each city, and perhaps the easiest way is just to sort by city. So again, I'm just clicking in my spreadsheet, and to sort, I want to go to data, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth choice here in our menu bar. We'll go to sort, then sort sheet, and we get a choice of column D, A to Z, or column D, Z to A. Now it doesn't at all mention those column headings because I've frozen them, so they aren't part of what is going to be sorted. Well, let's go A to Z and click that. And now we have Blue Springs together, Independence, Kansas City, Lee Summit, Raytown. And that is really great, isn't it? But look at what happened over here on the right. Well, these rows have sorted consistently with the information that was to their left. And so I have this great looking spreadsheet here that is sorted, but I've kind of messed up this one over here. So let's talk about how we can have two separate kinds of lists, two separate kinds of spreadsheets within the same rows, and sort one and not sort the other. So to do that, first of all, I'm going to undo. So now we have our information the way it was, and we have this saver cards spreadsheet the way it was. And now I'm just going to select the saver cards instead. Now before I sort this, and I'm going to sort it by number over here in column L, let's look, and we're going to just remember David, Kimberly, and Amelia, because a sort to the right should also change these names over here. And then we're going to go to data, and instead of having only sort sheet, which we could still do, we can also sort a specific range. Now, when I come over to the right, it says, do you want to sort by column K? Well, it's already sorted. What I really want to do is go to the advanced range sorting options, click on that, and then we need to answer some questions. So, do we need to say that the data has a header row? Well, yes, it does. And as soon as I say the data has a header row, instead of saying, do I want to sort by column K or column L, it now says, do I want to sort by card type or by number? Well, we'll say number, and then we'll say A to Z, and we'll sort. So now watch what happened. Here we have the numbers in ascending order, and of course the card type has moved with that number. But as we look to the left, that main spreadsheet with David, Kimberly, and Amelia has not changed. So we can sort, and again, we'll just go to data and sort range, and that is the key. Then if we do that, then it only sorts the cells that we have selected and not other cells that might be really close next to the table, the spreadsheet that we wanted to sort. Now that is really fascinating, isn't it? Besides sorting by a single column, there may be a time when you want to sort by more than one column. For example, I might want to see who is in which grade level, and then look at the grade levels and see who is getting the higher scores, at least those initial scores that we learned about. Well, to do that, we would of course want to select that spreadsheet. So I'm going to select B1 through I-12, and then I'm going to go to Data, and that lets me sort the range. And instead of sorting, though, column B, I want to come down to Advanced Range Sorting Options. And we want to be sure to say that the data has a header row. Otherwise, I'm just guessing. And yes, column B is maybe correct, but it's a whole lot easier to choose from the list of the different column headings. So first, we want to sort by grade level. And ascending would be fine. We will then start with the freshmen and go up to the seniors. And then we can add another sort column, so we'll click on that. And then where do we want to do it? We want to sort by their averages. And let's say that we want to see who is making the highest scores on average first in that different grade level. So we'll say Z to A, and then we'll sort. And so while we have the freshmen together, so we have 3 freshmen, it is now sorted by Stephen Perry, who's made an 86, and Frederick Henderson, who's made an 84, and then Daniel Rodriguez, who's made a 74. So as we look at the different grade levels, we can see that the highest number is here at the top, and then they go down as it sorts down, and then it goes to the next grade level, in this case the juniors, and who is making the highest score, and then we go down and eventually we go to the seniors, and who is making the higher score is always first. So that is just a really helpful way to get useful information very quickly. Now sometimes when you sort, it's just as simple as needing to know last name in alphabetical order, and if we have 2 people with the same last name, to sort by first name. So again, I'm going to select my spreadsheet here. I'm going to go to Data, and we're going to sort the range, and then we'll go to the Advanced Range Sorting. Our data has a header row. We want to first sort by last name, A to Z. Then we're going to add another sort column, and this time first name, also A to Z, and let's sort. Now for the most part, everybody has a unique last name. So we have Brewer, but here we have 2 Donaldsons, and it has sorted David first and then Dolly. And then we have the H's, and we have 3 or 4 of those. We have some people in the P's here, Parsons and Perry, and then we have a Rodriguez and a Wade. So last name has sorted, but when there were 2 last names the same, we also then sorted by first name. Once in a while, you will either create a spreadsheet or inherit one that has some color coding with it. Generally, you'll see color coding within text or the cell background. And so for our first example here, we can see that Kansas City is in red and Raytown is in blue, and we would like to sort this column not in ascending order necessarily, but by text color. To do that, we need to go to the toolbar instead of the menu bar and go to the far right where we can see this funnel button, which is called Create Filter. Now it's a little confusing because we just want to sort, but we in fact will get a sort or filter option with this button. So we'll click the drop down, and we're going to create a new filter view. And then the view changes so that we definitely have this black background for the row numbers and the column letters. And we even get some more information where we could change, say, the range of the spreadsheet if what Sheets has picked up isn't exactly correct. And we could change this from filter 1 to some other name that explains what's going on a little better. What we are mainly interested in, though, is the column headers, which as we look at them, and I'm just going to look at city, you can see that on the right right-hand side of that column, we now have what looks like a drop-down arrow. And it's really just 3 lines in progressively smaller line size to make that arrow. And when I click on it, well, it gives me the option to sort A to Z or Z to A, but then I can also sort by color. And as I go to the right, I can see that it's already found out for me that I need to sort by the text color. So I'll rest my mouse on that. And now it's giving me a list of the text colors. What do I want to sort and put at the top? I think I'll go with blue. So we'll click blue. And now Raytown is at the top. Well, what if I decide I want to have that Kansas City and the red color at the top? What could I do here? Well, I'll click on the drop down and again sort by color, text color, and this time we're going to go with red, and we can see that blue is checked, but we'll go with red. Now blue goes back kind of to its original position, but Kansas City is now at the top. Well, let's go ahead and look at sorting by cell color as well. So we'll go to a different example where now in last name we have kind of this magenta background color. But we'll go through basically the same steps where again we'll go to the toolbar to the far right, we'll find that filter button where we'll click on the drop down, create a new filter view. We get that really dark background for the row numbers and the column letters. And now with last name, we're going to click on that drop down arrow and we're going to sort by color. And it's picked up that instead of having text color, we have fill color. And it even tells me that that is light magenta 3. Or I could choose white. That would be interesting, but we'll go with light magenta 3. And so now we have the different cells that have that magenta background at the top of our list. Now, if we decide that we want to remove this view for any reason, we need to first of all open it up, and then to the right we have this options button, which looks like a gear kind of. And as we click on that, you can see that we could choose to rename it. Instead of filter 1, I could call it sort by color. We could update the range. We could duplicate this someplace else, or we can delete this view, and it simply just takes me back to my original spreadsheet with nothing fancy attached to it. Before we go on to filtering, here are a couple of cautions, and one is simply a reminder that you do want to have column headings, and the column headings should really only reside in one cell. And then, especially if you're using the menu bar, as you decide how you're going to do your sorting and filtering, don't forget to freeze that first row of column headings so that they aren't included within the sort. Occasionally, initial or ending spaces might cause some quirkiness within your sorts, so if you run into an issue with that, be sure to delete any extra spaces before or after the entries. Now let's look at an example of using a filter, and filters are a little bit different in that you don't see all of the rows, you don't see all of the spreadsheet when you filter the information. But with a filter, what you do see is what you want to see, the answers to your question, and everything else is nicely tucked away and hidden away so that they don't interfere with what you are trying to process and think about. So let's say, for example, with our first filter here, we decide that we want to look at the West District. And in this spreadsheet, we have employees and different districts that they work in, and what state is within that district. And then these employees, of course, have a title or a department. We even have their birth date because they might need to retire at some point. We need to kind of keep up with those that are getting close to retirement age. And then we also want to know how many years they've been employed. So we have a lot of things that we could sort, but let's look at a filter and find out how we can find those people who only work in the Western District. And to do that, I need to be sure that I've kind of clicked in this spreadsheet wherever I would like to. And then let's just use the toolbar here with our Create a Filter button. Click the drop down, and we're going to create a new filter view. And again, we're getting kind of used to how this view changes and how we get the drop down arrow that is added just to the right of district. So I'll click the drop down arrow here, and I want to filter. Now this is kind of interesting. I have different choices by color, by condition, by values, or down at the very bottom, it shows me all of the different values that can be found within this column, which are C for Central, and East has an E and a W for West. Well, to get rid of the check marks for the C and the E, what I can do is come up here just above that list to clear, and that clears out my check marks. So now I just click on the W to find the W's, and I need to scroll down a little bit farther here because in the lower right I'm going to find this green OK button. Click on it, and now I only see the people who work in that West District. Notice that instead of having a drop down arrow, that little icon to the right of district has changed. So now it looks like a funnel, and I know that this is how I have filtered this particular spreadsheet. At some point, we're going to want to see the entire spreadsheet again and not just see the W district records. To find all of the records again, we need to go to District, find that funnel button, and click on it. And as we move down in this drop-down list, just to the left of Clear, which is what we used before, we're going to find Select All. Click on that, and now it has selected the W, the C, and the E. We'll click OK, and all of our records are back within this spreadsheet. Now occasionally you may decide that you want to have a filter of more than one column. For example, we may decide that we want to find people who are in the East District who've been employed more than 5 years. How could we do that? Well, what we can do is we would start with district, and filters tend to work from left to right. So we would start with district, and here we would again go to Clear and select East this time. Click OK, and it shows us the people who are in the East District. And then if we want to filter another column, we need to go to that column and its drop down. So we have years employed, and we'll click that drop down. Now we don't want to filter by color, but let's look at filter by condition. Right now it says none, but if we click on that drop down, look at that. We're looking for, is it empty? Does the text contain or not contain? Does it start with or end with? Or the text is exactly. So those are definitely all text conditions that we might want to test for. And then it comes down to dates, and again, the date is, or it's before or after a certain date. And then we simply have some just simple math comparisons. So greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and quite many other choices here. So what we can say is simply, well, greater than, and then below greater than, it says, what is the value or the formula? I'm going to type a 5. So you have this thought that you want to set up for the condition, but it takes a couple of different boxes here to fill in all the information that you want. But again, we'll come down Now, that's what we really want to do, but notice that we could have also said, well, I just want to clear out this list of all of the different values, and I just want to pick the ones that I want to pick. So here's the thing. If we have 10 entries and we're just picking from 10, that isn't bad. But if we had 1,000 employees or 1,500 employees, and we had to go through and individually check each unique number, that could be really time consuming. So we're much better off using the condition and just putting in more of a math comparison above where this list is. Then we'll come down to the right and click OK. And so now here are the two people who are in the East District who've been employed more than 5 years. Easy to do. Now again, I would want to, as I get my spreadsheet back, well, I could come down here and start clearing a bunch of things because that would be a possibility. I could also, and this might even be better, go to say data, and where it says filter views, go to the right, and I might even be able to delete right here under filter view options. I could delete that filter and everything that's in it, or I could simply say just no filter and click on that, and it brings back all of my records within this spreadsheet. If we were able to sort by color, we can also filter by color, and it looks very similar. So let's see how this looks. I've moved to a new example where, again, we have our same spreadsheet, and I'm clicked in our spreadsheet, and we're going to go over to the right to that create a filter and click on the drop down for the filter view. We'll create a new filter view. And this time, as I go to city, we know that Kansas City is in red. We're going to click on the drop down arrow, and instead of sorting or sorting by color, we are going to filter by color. As I go to the right, it says, well, right now we don't have a filter by color, but here is text color. It already knows we don't have a fill color. And now what do we want to be able to filter by? Well, let's say the red color. And we can see only Kansas City when we filter because we filtered by that red color. Now to get it back, we're going to click on that filter by color, and we'll simply say none, and that should bring back all of the different options here within our spreadsheet. Pretty easy, huh? Well, let's look at, of course, cell color as well. So again, we have that light magenta in column A, and we'll go to our toolbar on the far right where we can create a filter. We'll create a new filter view, and then we'll go to where our cell color is, column A, last name, click that drop down, and again, we're not going to sort or sort by color, we are going to filter by color, and it says right now you don't have that filter on. Darn, my mouse slipped. You don't have it on now, but you do have a fill color, you don't have text color, and it's even saying, do you want to use the light magenta 3, or do you want to use, it says white, but basically it's just no cell color. And so we'll go with light magenta 3, and now we only see the records that have that background color. And while this is such a small example, it's probably not all that dramatic to see how that works. If you have 1,000 records again, or 10,000 records, and you need to quickly find out which different rows, which different pieces of information have that color coding, this is such a wonderful time saver for you. And again, if we want to turn it off, we can click on the little funnel button here where it says filter by color. We'll simply say none. And if we want to remove this filter view, just as a review, we'll go to the right, we'll go to the gear, and we could rename this filter. We can update the range, we can duplicate, or we can delete. Now, it doesn't delete the records, it simply deletes the filter that we have created. As we've looked at sorting and filtering, and we realize that we can definitely sort on several levels, or we can filter on several levels. Can we combine sorting and filtering? And the answer is, well, yes, we can. So for our last example today, I'm going to again click in our spreadsheet here, and I'm going to first of all filter for that kind of magenta background. So we'll come over to the right to the filter button, and we're going to create a new filter. We'll go to the drop down to the right of last name, and we're going to filter by color, and we already know that that's a filter color, a fill color of light magenta. And so now we have our 4 people who have that background. And then let's say that we want to sort by, say, the city. And we know that while it's pretty close to sorted, its independence is at the first record and the last. So we'll click on that drop down, and we're going to sort A to Z. And that brings the 2 independence records together. And then we have Lee Summit and Raytown. And then let's say that we want to filter by those who have a score less than 80. We're kind of worried about those 70s and under. So let's go to average, click the drop down, and I'm going to filter by condition. And right now it says none, but I'm going to click that drop down. And as I come down, I'm going to say it's less than, and what is it less than? 80. And then we're going to go on down and click OK. And so now I have the 3 people who have scores that are less than 80. We still have them alphabetical by city. And so we could have continued filtering and sorting until we have the information the way we want it so that we can get the answers that we need. To learn even more, visit our mymcpl.org/online learning page, where you will find some really great online resources which include Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, and Learning Express Library. Tune in each week as we introduce new videos on a variety of tech topics. You can find us at 1 o'clock on Wednesday and Friday and 2 o'clock on Tuesday. Be sure to find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, or if you prefer, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at MCPLMO, where you can find our MCPL Consumer Technology Resources playlist.